Gatsby 123 podcast. I am joined today by none other than Trevor Savage. How are you doing, Trevor?
I'm doing great. A little tired. It's been quite. Hold on one second. I got you coming through my headphones and the other one too. Hold on one second. I got to pause it.
No
there we go. I'm a total boomer when it comes to technology. Hold on one second. Okay, there we go. Now I'm good. I am a little tired today.
Okay.
I've been solo parenting for 4 days now, so I'm picking my wife up from the airport in a little bit. So that's
Awesome.
about it.
Let me just change the title because you are not Bertie Bailey. You're Savage and you deserve your own title.
Nice.
Talking all things USA, poker, and pot limits. Omaha. Excellent. So solo parenting, what's that like?
A little exhausting. I mean, it's a little bit easier now. My kids are a little older, so they go to school all day, and I just play poker during the day. But then afterwards, picking them up from school, taking to where their friends' houses, or feeding them, and all the stuff you have to do to keep kids alive.
I've got a cat, so I can completely relate. We're basically doing the same job,
Same thing.
Excellent. Right, so the way we do things on the Gatsby podcast, I'm going to give you a quick fire 10 question, get to know you speed round. Got to answer these as quick as you can. Then we'll get into the real stuff. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Ready? If you want to veto anything, which I'm pretty sure you won't want to in this subsection, just go ahead and pass. Okay, age.
38.
Location.
New Jersey, South Jersey, right near Philadelphia.
You had to think about that age one for a second there. Main site. Sorry, go ahead.
when you get old, it all blends together. It's
just mid to late
36,
30s.
37. Yeah, it's somewhere in there.
Main sites that you play on?
PokerStars, New Jersey, and Borgata Poker, New Jersey.
If you had to pick one of them, what's your favorite site to play on?
Borgata.
Years as a pro?
May will be 17.
It was 17 years as a pro. Wow. Vaccinated?
Yeah. Yes.
Good man. Who's your poker idol?
Poker idol. Holy shit. Greg Merson.
Greg Merson. Interesting choice. Best friend in poker?
Probably Greg Merson.
Okay. We'll get Greg Merson on the Gatsby podcast and see if he answers the same. Favorite casino to play poker in? I see you travel around quite a lot.
It's been so long since I've even played poker in a casino. It used to be Parks because that's where I played a lot of hours. So I'll probably say Parks.
Parks, and that's in Philadelphia.
It's right outside of Philadelphia. Yeah, right outside of Philadelphia. Yeah.
Excellent. And last one, favorite pastime away from the tables? Don't say parenting.
Man, it's definitely parenting though.
Really?
My current favorite pastime away from the tables is playing Minecraft.
I was just about to say your Discord has been playing Minecraft all day, so I was going to say I probably know the answer to that one already.
Yeah.
Excellent. So that's a quick fire get to know you quiz out of the way. Feeling good? Feeling okay so far?
Yeah, I'm feeling good.
Excellent. I can't wait till the first time someone's not vaccinated and we have that awkward moment when they don't answer that one, but we'll cross that bridge when the time comes. So pot limit Omaha primarily these days. You used to be a no limit hold'em player, is that right?
Yeah, I've worn a bunch of different hats over the 17 years. I've been a live poker player. I've been an online poker player. I was a heads up no limit poker player. And since New Jersey launched, New Jersey launched in 2013. I was playing 6 max no limit, 12 to 15 tables or whatever was running, up until about 2018, I think it was, when I switched to playing only PLO, playing much less tables and just PLO.
So you went pro as a no limit hold'em player. What was the reason behind the switch to pot limit Omaha?
I just enjoyed it a lot more. I've always played pot limit Omaha on the side, or back when I played heads up no limit before Black Friday, I played heads up PLO also, and I always played on the side, and I just enjoyed it a lot more, and I wanted to get more into it, so I decided to just start playing a bunch of heads up and 3-handed as much as possible, and kind of play every hand and feel my way through situations, and I just enjoyed it a lot more, and now I would not go back to playing no limit ever.
You've taken the question out of my mouth. If you had to choose between going back to no limit or joining the real world, would it be the real world?
I would just retire from life.
Just Full-time stay-at-home dad type thing, yeah?
Stay at home dad, or maybe get a job at the local grocery store bagging
Right.
groceries.
Flipping burgers, McDonald's, that.
Yeah,
So the
yeah.
sort of stakes that you're playing for PLO?
It's mostly 2.5 up to 25.50, but most of the high stakes games don't really go that much. So it's mostly main stake is probably 5.10.
Okay. You get reasonable action at mid-stakes in the New Jersey sites?
Comes and goes. It's there's a lot more waiting around than anything, which is fine by me because I don't want to go back to the days of playing lots of tables and lots of hands. I played over 1 million hands a year for many years, and I definitely was burnt out from that. And just after my sessions, feeling just drained. Whereas now it's way more relaxed. I can do other things at the same time. I can play Minecraft. I can do other things, while I'm playing. Because I play a very kind of regimented schedule. I usually play 7 or 8 hours a day, and I play every day. If I'm in New Jersey, I'm playing. So it's far better for me to have my action a little spaced out and less hands, less stress, and just kind of take the action as it comes.
Yeah, that's obviously quite different to your beginning. Obviously, you said you played 1 million hands a year for several years in a row. That's quite a lot of poker. I'm sure you much prefer the slower structure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would. I'm also somebody who, if I'm playing, I'm completely locked in on what I'm doing. If I'm playing 6 max and if I'm playing 12 tables, I was exerting so much mental energy every day to play. That like I said, it would take me a couple hours after I was done my sessions to be able to get back to normal. Mm-hmm. And I always play during the day too. So yeah, it's just much better to space my sessions out a little bit and be able to exist normally in the rest of my life.
That's exactly it. Yeah, there's a bit of a recovery time if you're playing so many tables, obviously. Were you getting a lot of rake back in the day? Is that one of the reasons for such high volume, or was it just that preferred style of poker?
Yeah, it was. I mean, rake back here was pretty good at the beginning, and then it was just what I did. I don't know. I just wanted to be playing every game that was going.
Yeah,
and it is the best way to reach the highest hourly, in my opinion. So it's just what I did.
Big shout out to my buddy Z Las Vegas in the chat, currently residing in Miami, living the dream. Welcome to the podcast, buddy. I imagine, obviously, double the amount of cards. It's going to be a little more difficult if you're playing so many tables, so it certainly helps playing, transitioning to play at PLO and playing less tables, etc.
Yeah, and also, I mean, there's just not as many games going either. So I'm playing far less tables just because there's not many games going, playing more shorthanded, which is what I would like to be doing anyway. So I've always tried to do what I wanted to do, what I felt best about doing, and what made me feel good mentally and have a better to be able to have a better life balance. My life happiness has always come before poker happiness, so that's the way that I've kind of approached things.
For sure, we know you're big on that. We're going to talk about that in a little bit of time. But first of all, the transition from No Limit Hold'em to PLO, the difference in variance, did you find that a little startling at first, or was it pretty okay for you?
I never really experienced that too much because I was playing a lot of shorthanded and against people who weren't very good, in my opinion. So it allowed me to, like, when you're playing shorthanded PLO, you can win a lot more without showdown if people are bad in certain ways. And so I didn't really have to deal with the variance that a lot of people deal with when transitioning from No Limit to PLO. Obviously, you get it all in a lot more, but yeah, it wasn't really any kind of an issue for me.
Okay. In terms of your overall career, obviously being a pro for 17 years, you must have had, whether Hold'em or Omaha, your fair share of brutal stretches. Have you had any particularly nasty downswings that you can tell us about?
I've been pretty fortunate throughout my entire poker career to not experience too many major ones. Most of my downswings are break-even stretches for, back when I played 6 max no limit, they'd be 50K or 60K hand break-even stretches. Wow. Which, when you're playing lots of hands is only, a 2-week stretch or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
I've been lucky. My poker career, obviously I started right before the boom. I learned how to play No Limit Hold'em right before Moneymaker happened. So I started playing in 2002, which there's been a bunch of really fortunate bounces my way. Basically, I started playing then then Moneymaker happened. So I was already playing and able to be, better than most of the people at the time. And then I started playing live. I played online, and things were great at that time, obviously before Black Friday. And then when Black Friday happened, a casino had just opened up around here. Parks had just opened up by my house. So I was able to go there, and I already had a lot of live experience. I had played, thousands of hours of live poker between 2002 and 2007. I would go down to Atlantic City, which, again, another lucky break. I grew up not too far from Atlantic City. At the time back then, there weren't a lot of card rooms anywhere. There weren't a lot of poker rooms. It wasn't like it is now. So I was able to go down to Atlantic City every weekend when I was in college, an hour drive, and I would play 60-hour sessions, 70-hour sessions. So I was just putting in reps and tons of hours before anybody really got to do the same thing. And then, so then Parks opened in 2011, and I had that for 2 years in a new poker economy, basically. And then New Jersey Online started right after that, which is another new poker economy. So I've been really fortunate in my spaces. And the other thing is, like, a lot of my games, the games that I've played have been very consistent my entire career. So, like, when I played at Parks, I played with the same 20 people or 30 people. I played during the day, every day. We started the game, same 20 to 30 people where you get a lot of familiarity with them. And then same thing in New Jersey. It's a small player pool, so you can get a lot of familiarity with people. And I have like a very good memory, so if you have a good memory and you can remember what everybody's up to, then it makes it a lot easier.
Must help a lot, yeah, if you can just recollect a hand from about 4 years ago where somebody did something on the river. Obviously, being a pro for 17 years, the game will have changed quite a lot. Let's talk a little bit about the difference between live poker 17 years ago and live poker today. It must have changed quite a lot for you. It feels like you watch games like high stakes poker, etc., and nobody knew what they were doing back in the day, whereas things are a little tougher these days. Obviously, still relatively soft, though. Yeah,
live poker definitely has changed a lot. Obviously, back in those days, it was very, very different. When I was playing in those 1-2 or 2-5 games back at the Tropicana in Atlantic City in 2005, if somebody raised pre-flop, it was a good chance they had like jacks plus. If they raised 3x or 3 to 5x or whatever, it was jacks plus. And that's obviously not the way it is now. I don't really play live poker at all anymore. But when I have, in the past few years, the lower stakes games, not much has changed. At the 1-2 level, it's still mostly people who are just having a good time or passing the time. At the higher stakes level, it's a lot different of an environment now than it was back then. And I can't really speak to that too much because my experience at the high stakes level is limited to 7 or 8 years ago. It's been a while since I played any high stakes live poker, but it's far more about creating enjoyable experiences for people and things that are outside of poker that are important to provide a good experience for both yourself and for the people that you're playing with.
A very good point. So it's you're not a robotic type to sit there with your headphones on if you ever do dabble on the live streets.
Yeah, no. When my most recent live experiences are when I was making YouTube videos, and I would go. My thing was to go to the casino and play a 1-2 game and play every single hand dealt in. I would not fold pre-flop, and so there was that. Those are my experiences, and then the meetup game experiences, which are some of the most fun poker experiences you can have. And I would always, as somebody who's making content and somebody who just likes to enjoy themselves, my number one goal was to make sure everybody was having a good time when I was in those games. And that's, if I was going to be playing live poker for any reason right now, it would have to be in an environment where I was having a lot of fun. I would just not, there's no chance I would be found at a casino grinding like a dusty 5-10 game on Friday night or something like that. It just wouldn't be me.
Those days are behind you now, yeah. So I had a little bit of a section about, being a PLO player and how the variance is a little bit more difficult. But obviously you've had a semi-charmed life, if you like. But you're quite big on the mental side of things when it comes to poker yourself. You dabble in that a little bit. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so I've done a lot of work on the mental side of poker, but also just the mental side of life over the last 8 years. I've always been kind of in that mold, especially from a poker standpoint. I'm not somebody who tilts very easily in general at the table. In my mind or the way that I'm acting in front of the computer is just like everybody else. I'm screaming and I'm doing all kinds of stuff. But those are my releases, so that I don't do it at the table. So I'll have all different kinds of tricks where I like to sing songs towards my opponents, and anything that you can do to kind of get rid of it like that rather than at the table. But yeah, from a mental health side of things, about 9 years ago, I dealt pretty with a lot of panic attacks, and I had one really bad panic attack that sent me to the hospital. And I was dealing with them very often over the course of about a year to a year and a half. I was at 30 years old. I was about to have my third child, and which I found now since that time that this is a very common thing for a lot of people around the age of 30 to have a lot of these feelings, these emotions, and these panic attacks are very common. Or whether it's anxiety, depression, any kind of mental health hurdles. So when that happened, I kind of took a step back and really started to try to focus a lot of energy on how could I improve my mental health and like what could I do. So I found a lot of the things that you'll hear from other people. The number one being meditation. I lost a bunch of weight. I exercised often. All those normal things that you hear to get into a good state of mind. Yeah. And then from a poker standpoint, I just kind of set myself up with a very kind of regimented schedule, just both from playing and from preparation. So I do the same thing every single day. Have the same morning routine for about a half hour before my poker session. Then I sit for 7 or 8 hours, and then I shut off poker from my life. Basically, I don't look at results. I don't look at results until the end of each month. Those type of things that. Yeah, and honestly, I wouldn't even look at results ever if I didn't have to like cash out. If I didn't have to cash out money to pay bills for the family and stuff, I would just never look. I don't even have Hold'em Manager or Poker Tracker working on my computer.
Really, just cold turkey then.
Yeah. Wow. I don't use a HUD. I'm the very atypical online poker player. I'm an old guy that doesn't use a HUD. I just
very old school. I love it.
Yeah, old school.
Let's commend you on obviously being so open and honest. Obviously when you've experienced things like that in your late 20s, early 30s, it must seem a little silly getting frustrated at getting bad beat on the river or something like that. So having that experience sort of helps you stay calm during the grind, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it all puts it in perspective. A lot of times if you're feeling stressed about a situation, you're often very much out of the moment. You're focusing on something that just happened in the past or something that you're looking forward to in the future. And that's the biggest cause of stress in anybody. So, I try to be as present as possible so that I don't lose the sight of what's important, and honestly, actually today is actually a perfect example. And this is one of the cool things about having kids is that they can snap you out of something very quickly. So this morning, normally I just grind straight through in the morning. My wife is here, takes the kids to school, but she's been in Florida for the past couple of days. So I've had to take them to school. And the session this morning, I was playing somebody and I lost a bunch of hands in a row. I was kind of tilted, just like I don't know. I remember it was over a couple different tables. I was losing a bunch of hands, and then they immediately left, which was in time for me to take my son to school. Okay. And I walked out, and I'm sure I was like yelling shit or whatever. And I walked out, and out of nowhere, he just like walked up to me, and he was like, "Here's a little song I wrote." And I was like, what? And I didn't even know he knew that song. And I was like, do you know what song that is, right?
Bob Marley, yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, I was like, do you know what song that is, buddy? And he's like, no, I don't know what song. I said, I'm going to play it for you on the way in the car. And I hear, like, how can I get upset about what just happened? Losing a couple of buy-ins or whatever when you get to walk out to that. And it gives you some perspective.
It must be nice to have something so quick to just snap you back into life and how, brilliant life is. It's certainly the joys of having children. TSU12 in the chat, welcome, buddy. He says, interesting, why do you think people get more panic attacks around the age of 30? Do you think it was related to your personal life having children, or do you think it's just coincidental?
I think it's a really common thing for anybody, whether they have children or not. I think it's an age where there's a lot of decisions that you have to make or things that you wish you'd accomplished in your 20s. And it's that age where it's like, okay, now am I really an adult now, and I have to do adult like things.
Yeah.
For me personally, I've always struggled. I didn't even realize this, but I had different like levels of anxiety and panic attacks for my entire life. I remember when I was a kid, I just didn't know that's what they were.
Right.
And it really peaked for me at that age because of a fear of death. And I think that having kids and seeing them get a little bit older and knowing that I had my son on the way at the time, it kind of all combined into that I don't want to die. I was so afraid of that, and coming to terms with not coming to terms with it, but understanding that was kind of what my trigger was, and then understanding more about what panic attacks are and what anxiety is and how it presents itself in your body. Those were kind of the things that I needed to get by to improve my situation mentally. But yeah, I think that's the main reason is like around 30, you just have so many, it's like key decision points, essentially. You might not be in a relationship yet and you're thinking, am I ever going to settle down with somebody? You have all these questions that are lingering. And I think that tends to happen. And it's also like, you don't yet, I think, have that experience and that knowledge. Like me at 38 compared to me at 30 is definitely 100% a different human being. My core beliefs and my core person is still there, but my maturity, my understanding of what life is, what is important in life, and those type of things is so much higher at this point.
It must have been a bit of a relief to identify and sort of label the issues that you were having, from not knowing anything about it to saying to yourself, okay, this is what it is, this is why it happens, etc. Must have been a bit of a relieving thing to know more about.
Yeah, definitely a relief. It was not just overnight though. It took quite a while, especially the way that anxiety can present itself in your body, physically and mentally. So oftentimes anxiety presents itself, like I said, either in terms of thoughts or feelings. And so for me, I would get a different feeling in my body all the time. I had one in my throat that just was routine. It would happen. It would be almost like I would lose my breath for a few seconds, and then I would panic immediately. And I would just think, what was that? Like, how did that happen? What's going on? Am I going to die? Those type of thoughts.
Yeah.
And then I'd have other ones in my temple. You get anxiety ear, which is like a burning sensation in your ear. And then you have those feelings in your body. And if you don't handle them in the correct way, if you try to push them away, then they intensify. And it's the same thing with thoughts. So if I would get a thought in my head like, oh my God, I'm going to die one day, or I'm going to, nothing's going to go right today, or those type of things, and they kind of compound on each other unless you address them in the right way. But learning how to address them in the right way is really what has given me the most relief. And even 8 years later, the anxiety is still there. It never disappears. It's always present. It's just my relationship with it has changed so that when I do have that feeling in my body or the thought in my head, I can immediately address it in the right way and then move on from it.
That's really awesome. In terms of, we step away from poker for a little bit and we talk about society in general, do you feel like the taboo that once was with regards to these things, do you feel like it's less so these days, or are you able to talk about this more freely than you perhaps were 10 years ago?
It's definitely gotten a lot better. After that happened to me, I wrote a blog maybe about 2 years later, after I had done a lot of work on myself. I wrote a blog about my experience with the panic attacks and everything. A lot of people reached out to me and they said, oh my God, this has happened to me before. I didn't want to ever tell anybody. I didn't know. So I think there's a lot of people under the surface that are experiencing these things, but not really wanting to talk about it and afraid to talk about it. And the words mental health carry a pretty big stigma still to this day. It's gotten better for sure. But it's definitely still has that, like, especially for men, they don't want to appear weak. You don't want to appear like, oh, I can't handle this, that type of thing. It's very, very common for men to be like that. And so it's gotten better though. I mean, I have seen with my own eyes, people reach out to me and want to chat and to get help on certain things. And it's just a human thing. It's not a man or a woman thing. It's a human thing. It's just a normal thing to go through different trials, and mental health really is a weird word to like for the whole scope of things, because when you hear the word mental health, you think, okay, this person's dealing with anxiety or depression or all these other big terms that are very kind of scary and ominous, when really it's just life. People constantly, everybody that you come across has different issues in their life that they're struggling with. Some people are better at addressing them. Some people are worse at addressing them. And then the other key point is that everybody cycles. So everybody has a different cycle. Some people have a high cycle where you kind of go way up, just like a poker graph, right? You have you go way up and then you go way down. Like it's crazy, right? You're on these, and then other people are more even keel. They might not have as many ups and downs, but it's all just part of life.
Like I say, commendable to you for being so open about it. As you say, some people are perhaps not as open about it as they would like to be, because obviously there is somewhat of a stigma still in society. Coming back to the general poker chat, you say that you've got a solid routine, and you think that helps you a lot, as opposed to being a little bit all over the place like someone like me.
Yeah,
I went to bed at 9 a.m. this morning. Quick disclaimer: I don't think you did that, did you?
No. So yeah, again, I'm so different from like the normal poker idea, or like the normal poker pro, probably, because I've had kids for most of my career. My oldest is going to be 14 this year.
Wow.
So for the longest time, I actually kind of thought that was something that held me back, and I had negative emotions about it almost, because when I came up in poker, my first few years, I was a single guy. I had the same, like the normal poker idea. I was like, I'm a single guy. I can grind as much as I want. I'm going to grind up to the highest stakes. I was really good friends with Tom Marchese. We kind of came up at the same time. I was like, me and Tom are going to, take over. Yeah. And then next thing I knew, I was in a relationship and I was having a baby and I was getting married. And I was like, well, okay, this is something different. And so for the longest time, I kind of was like, oh, that held me back so much that, I had to do this, and I had kids, and I didn't get to achieve the things that I wanted to achieve. Well, then I realized, it took me a while to really think through this, and I realized that's obviously not a good way to think about things, but also it caused me to take a different path than most people, and it caused me to be focused way more on my life happiness and to have a routine and a normal kind of life as opposed to a poker life. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just what ended up working out for me, and what has now solidified the way that I went about doing things. So my routine is very much, I'm in bed usually by 10 or 11 at night. I wake up at 6 in the morning. I do my 30-minute routine of includes meditation and taking vitamins and drinking coffee and doing push-ups and stuff like that. And then I start playing poker at 6:30 in the morning. And I play 6:30 to 2:30. And at 2:30, I'm done with poker. I don't think about it again, other than doing like an interview like this. And then I'm into dad mode. So I really kind of like compartmentalize my life. I know when I'm playing poker, and I know I'm going to be engaged in it at that point. And then after that, I shut it off, and I don't worry about it anymore.
That sounds a lot like the classic phrase that we hear a lot of in terms of treating poker like a job. It sounds like you've got that nailed down to a T in a way.
That's always been the way that I was, and I had to be, because the way that my life went, I was playing in 2005 and 2006. I was just kind of putzing around. I was playing 1-2, 2-5, occasionally 5-10 at the casino. I was making enough to go out for the night with my friends, mostly the poker dealers, and stay out all night and drink and have a great time, which was great. It was fun. Loved it. And then once I got into a relationship with my wife now, we moved pretty quickly. And I started playing online full-time at that point. And we had our first baby in 2008. And so that went to like, okay, I have to treat this like a job. I've screwed around for too long to just like, now I have to be, I'm a dad. I'm a provider. My wife has a degree from Drexel University. She was in a career field, and when she was pregnant, she got laid off at that point. And we decided she would just stay home. So I was in charge of the finances at that point.
Yeah.
And then we had our second kid 2 years after that. So it went very quickly to this. I have to treat this like a job with respect. Every decision I make affects not only me, but also my family. And so those first, I spent a long time really kind of on that grind of, I can't lose. I'm not allowed to lose, because these people are relying on me, and I can't I can't move up the stakes as fast as other people will because I don't want that variance in my life. I don't want to lose 20K pots when I know that I have bills to pay. So I'm just not going to lose. That's the decision that I made.
That's really interesting stuff. I wanted to ask you, that period before you met your wife and you had your children, etc. Your routine might not have been as strict as it is. Do you have any advice for people out there? For me, essentially, I would love to have the routine that you have, but I don't because there are no consequences to me not having that routine. Like if I don't wake up at 7 a.m. and go to bed at 11 p.m., like there's nothing bad about that. Whereas for you, obviously, you have to. You've got children, you've got to feed them and take them to school, etc. Any advice for transitioning to a solid routine for people like me?
I think the main thing is that you're never going to do it and stick to it unless you actually enjoy it and unless it brings you increased life happiness. So you have to see some results from it after a certain period of time in order for it to stick and to make. So the key difference in any kind of key way to make changes in your life is to actually feel a tangible difference and then have it trigger in your mind, this is why I'm feeling different and I'm enjoying this more. Okay. So it's kind of, to me, it's like you have to start with small changes, and you can do things like habit stacking, which is from a book by James Clear called Atomic Habits. Okay. Those type of things can reset, like reprogram you into a different person, but it's not something that happens overnight. And ultimately it comes down to, are you happier doing that? I try to make every decision, whether it's poker related or life related, into will this contribute to my overall life happiness and the way that I'm feeling. And if you're in a mode right now where you don't want to be that person, where you don't want to do that, then it's up to you, obviously, to start making the changes, one thing at a time. But it could be, some people, that's the life that they like. That's what they want. That's how they feel good. That's how they want to be living their life.
I mean, I feel like I want to be that person, but sitting up playing Super Mario until 5 a.m. is just too damn good right now. Maybe one day it'll change for me.
There's a total big difference between wanting to be that person and then also wanting to be that person. Yeah. So you can't make yourself something that you're not. And if you did, you'd probably be less happy.
That's very true, actually. Yeah, you've spoken a lot about happiness. There's one thing I did want to ask. I had a few questions for you in terms of, the brutality of PLO variance, etc. You said you've been quite fortunate that you've never had that sort of struggle. One of the questions I wanted to ask was there any sort of pressure? And maybe we can, refer back to the time when you were just starting a family and your wife decided that she was going to stay home, etc. Did you feel a bit of pressure that you said that you had to win? Was that a sort of high pressure environment for you?
Yeah, it's a gift and a curse, and it was that way for a very long time, honestly, until probably a couple of years ago, where it was just the pressure of having to win all the time. It was the gift in the sense that I just made sure that I didn't lose. Okay. So I put in as many hours as I possibly could, put myself in as many situations as I possibly could, and obviously along with that comes the opportunities that I mentioned previously. When you have opportunities in front of you that allow you to really not lose, and it's all about taking advantage of it. A lot of poker players, when they find themselves in great situations, they only take so much and they get complacent.
Okay.
And I would not allow that to happen to myself. And when things were going poorly, I would play less, and that's just kind of how I've approached things. Like, again, from that, like treating it as a job type thing. So there's always been a lot of pressure on me. It was good in a sense that I couldn't allow myself to slack off in any way. I made it a vow to myself that I would not lose money that I shouldn't lose by playing poorly, by tilting. I would have I'm probably one of the best quitters that you'll ever meet. When I was playing Six Max No Limit, where the minute that I felt like I wasn't locked in, or that just things were just not going my way that day, then I quit and come back another day. And and then when things are going well, I would be there until all the money was mine. And
that's really cool. Asking for a friend, not for myself. How do you do it? How do you drag yourself away when you want to keep playing and you're not playing your best? How do you just find the strength to just drag yourself away?
It's all comes back to that awareness and presence. A long time ago, I started listening to Tommy Angelo stuff like forever ago, maybe when it was on Deuces Cracked, which is however long ago. I listened to the Eightfold Path to Poker Enlightenment, and just that made so much sense to me to be able to like have that. And the cool thing is that once you start to do it, you can kind of take some pride in it. So a lot of times when you want to quit but you can't quit, it's because of the pride thing. It's like, I'm going to show these guys, like fuck these guys, like I'm better than them, whatever. The minute that I learned how to quit, my poker game changed completely, because now I viewed quitting as me beating them. Right, I'm beating them over and over again. So I'm making better decisions than they would in the same exact scenario, which is what poker's about. Yeah. If you can make better decisions in the exact same scenario than your opponents, then you're going to win.
That's really cool. We talk about making decisions. People assume you're talking about decisions at the table, but the decision to quit the game is a decision in itself, which is cool. Coming back to your routine, obviously you say you get started, you play for 8 hours or so. Really curious to hear about your study routine, if it's there at all, or are you just a guy that loves to play and doesn't study at all?
I haven't too much lately. I mostly learned poker from playing and putting in hours, and learning from my opponents also, especially when I was playing Six Max No Limit. I would have a few opponents in my player pool that I would just study repeatedly, not because I wanted to beat them particularly, but because I wanted to see what they were up to, because I knew they were studying. So I would learn that way, especially No Limit. That's how I learned the most. I have always been a field player though, also. So I'm always the type that I understand like the math and all that stuff behind it, but I'm always the type that I will take my gut instinct over anything else at the time. Unless I'm playing somebody who's really, really good, usually then there's no gut instinct there. Then I'm just, going based on ranges and all that stuff. But as far as studying goes, the studying that I did for PLO was I played heads up and three-handed as much as I possibly could, played as many hands as I possibly could, like actually playing hands. So like, playing like 95 VPIP and just getting in every situation I could and understanding what people, how people thought about different board ranges and things like that. And then once I got through that, then I started playing a little more like four-handed, five-handed, six-handed. Then I had to learn how to play pre-flop because I didn't know. I was just anymore. Yeah, I'm just in there. I'm like, oh, let's take it to the flop. Let's take it to the streets. So then I started. I got the vision trainer from Run It Once and learned that stuff. That helped me to just get some fundamentals down, and especially because I have such a good memory, it allowed me to recognize like what I should be doing with different bet sizes in different situations that are more static in PLO. But then when it comes back to it, playing in a small player pool is great for me because I can take very nuanced strategies and nuanced lines against particular opponents and feel like I can execute them with really high success rates.
Okay, that's pretty cool stuff. Do you ever feel a slight tinge of guilt that you're not studying as much as you should be, or are you pretty content with your study levels?
No, I'm very content with my study levels. Honestly, with poker, if this opportunity in New Jersey goes away down the line and I can't do what I'm doing now, then I would probably be done with poker, I'm guessing.
Okay.
I would not find myself unless I had to, like, if I have to make money for the family and stuff like that, then obviously I would do what I had to do.
For sure.
But I would never go back to playing live for a living, for sure. And I don't think I would play in very tough environments where I had to deal with a lot of variance and a lot of tough opponents. I would just move on to something else.
I mean, who would? Why would you ever put yourself in that situation? I was going to talk about your social media presence, but we're going to skip over that and come to a couple of different bits and pieces. We'll come back to that for sure, though. Talking about the New Jersey sites, etc. It seems that there are one or two more states that are popping up that are able to play online poker again. How's the future of online poker in America for you?
Well, it's interesting because the main sites that I play are only New Jersey sites, and they do have the other skins they have those skins in those states. So they have them in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and I assume at some point they will. Nevada doesn't have Borgata and PokerStars yet.
Okay.
They only have WSOP,
Right.
which I don't play on because it's a rigged site. I'm just kidding.
Are you just kidding though? Are you? Is
no.
it like the party poker in Europe?
Yeah, no, I never really enjoyed playing on that site. And again, coming back to life happiness, if I just feel better playing on the other sites, and that's the way that I approach it. So yeah, I assume that at some point the player pools will combine. There's been talks of that for a while now. And then I assume it's just going to continue to kind of expand slowly from there, which I think is the best route. I think it's really good for each of these states to have their kind of fenced off player pools and allow people to play with just in those smaller player pools to start, and then you kind of start to slowly expand from there. And I assume that it will eventually reach most of the states again, and at some point maybe make it to a federal level. Who knows?
That was my next question. I mean, obviously, I think the reason that it's becoming more and more popular in these states is that they're seeing the tax revenue generated in places like New Jersey. It's quite a lot of money, and they say that they want that for themselves. How long do you think before you see all of the United States combined for a segregated player pool? And the follow-up question to that is, do you think the United States will ever join the rest of the world again, or what's left of it?
Yeah, I mean, follow the money, right? These other states that see these states bringing in this extra revenue, it's the same thing that's happened with sports betting. It's just going to continue. And that's the reason why things went away in 2011. It was they want a chunk of the money. So as far as when it will become a federal thing, and across all the states, I don't know. I think maybe 5 years out, maybe longer than that. I don't even know. I think it could just be one of those things where once a certain amount of states gets it, then they figure out, okay, let's just do this on a federal level. National level rather than statewide. What was the other question? Oh, will they join the rest of the country? I don't think so. I don't think it'll join the rest of the world. No.
I think people.
I think the U.S.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think the U.S. would just want to keep the regulation and money to themselves, and they would say fence it off to the rest of the world.
I asked that people I asked that question to a lot of different American players, and a lot of them are really optimistic. They say 5 years we'll be back with the rest of the world, etc. In terms of Trevor Savage's bottom line, is it better for you if more states are able to link up and play together? I assume it must be a good thing.
It's a good question. I've thought about it a lot. I've worried about it a lot, honestly. I like my little situation I have going on here. Yeah. I like playing short-handed games rather than full ring games. Not full ring, but six max games. So I think for me, ultimately, I'll adjust and I'll be fine either way. I think it could end up being better for me just because I play a daytime schedule. There's just not many other poker pros that want to play a daytime schedule that will play every single day, that are going to do the same things that I'm going to do. And so I think you kind of have everybody, regardless of how successful you've been, everybody has a tinge of imposter syndrome probably. So there's always that feeling like, oh, I'm going to be found out. And now that all these other states join in, I'm just not going to be able to win as much. And, over the course of my 17 years, I've found that I've been able to adjust to different circumstances and be just fine. So it really comes down to what, am I the one that's willing to continue to put in the work and to continue to get better if I have to, and stuff like that. And that will ultimately be decided when that comes to happen.
Surely there's less chance that you get, as you say, find out. Surely the fact that you've been playing online for so long, that puts you ahead of, say, Colorado or Illinois or somewhere who, they join. Surely you've got that extra experience and you'll be able to just crush souls.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely helps, and just having the experience helps. And also the fact that most, this is probably stereotyping, but it's probably true, is that most American professional poker players are just lazy. They just don't want to put the work in. And even, for younger kids coming up, I assume that there's some of them that play No Limit that might put a decent amount of work in, but I don't know for sure. But I mean, generally speaking, people just don't have the work ethic to get better, because ultimately for a lot of them, it's why would they do that? They would rather apply themselves in other areas where maybe they can make more money, especially if they're getting into DeFi or crypto or NFTs or these other spaces that are kind of in the similar realm of poker, where you can put a bunch of time and effort in and make a lot more money than you would playing poker.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think it's just an American thing, to be honest. I think certain European players or rest of world players have a lot more discipline, but there's a lot of us out there that are doing just enough to get by, and it's not good enough. Coming to a fun side of things now, you're a very popular presence in social media. You've done a lot of things like playing on Poker After Dark. You've got your vlogs and your podcast that we're going to talk about. Poker After Dark, that must have been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was one of the best poker experiences I ever had, honestly. It was really cool to think back about, and it came at a point in my life where I was really excited to do it. I was very nervous about doing it. I think if I did it now, having done it and having it, I talked about like personal growth and mental growth. I feel like even since then, it was about 2.5 years ago, I feel like I've had a lot of personal growth since then as well. So I feel like I'd be a lot calmer than I was going into it. I was really, really nervous going into it. And I remember I made some vlogs around that time from the experience, and I just remember being so nervous about it. But just the fact that I knew that, where I'd come from, I knew that if I had that opportunity, say 6 or 7 years ago, I would not have even been able to do it because I just couldn't stomach the anxiety of being on camera or trying to make decisions playing poker on camera, and stuff like that. And so, it was a really fun experience. It was a great game. I had a bad seat both days, I think. I definitely was like rusty playing live a little bit, and playing higher stakes than I would normally play live, as well as in a different type of environment. But overall, it was just a lot of fun. It was great.
You say that you were quite nervous. I've just posted the link in the chat to the 7-deuce offsuit hand. You didn't seem nervous when your opponent said to you, "What do you have?" and you smartly replied, 2 cards. It seemed cool as a cucumber there, to be honest.
It's so funny looking back though, because I think it was Jeff Platt or Ali Nahad, one of them, whoever was doing the commentating. No, Ali Nahad was doing the commentating, and he said something about he saw a little gulp, and I'm looking back, and obviously I know I'm bluffing when I'm looking at, everybody knows I'm bluffing when you're looking at a screen, but I'm like, man, how does he not call me that? I looked like I'm scared, but I guess you thought I looked pretty calm. The fact that playing the 7-deuce game is great, obviously, and it gives you the opportunity to do things like that. But I was just so happy that, knowing all I had been through with the anxiety, that I was able to put myself in that situation and execute on what I wanted to do. And the fact that it worked was great. But if it didn't work, I was just going to be happy that I did it. Like I wasn't afraid to pull the trigger on doing something like this. And obviously, the fact that it worked out was pretty great.
Absolutely fantastic. Not that it matters, but can you remember if you turned a profit over that time on Poker After Dark?
I did not. I lost 3K, I think, maybe, because the first day I won 3K, I think, the first day, or 4K the first day. And the second day, the last maybe hour or two of the session, I didn't win any hands. I lost a bunch of big ones. So, you only end up playing a very small amount of hands because, they're filming. Yeah. You're taking breaks a lot. So I think we played for 8 hours each day, but you're only getting in maybe 10 hands an hour or something, 15 hands an hour, if that. So
slow.
Yeah. Very, very slow. There was lots of action in the game, which was great. Yeah. There's one pretty epic hand towards the end where Barry got me back after the 7-deuce hand. He got me back where I had such a tight image because I just hadn't had many good situations come up, and I had check raised in a spot where Barry had opened and Justin Young flatted, and I called from the big blind, and I flopped middle pair on, like, I think it was King 8 deuce or King 7 deuce or something like that, and I check raised versus a bet and a call. I'm messing this hand up. It was actually ace. It was actually ace 8 deuce.
Okay.
And I check raised, and then Barry 3-bet the flop.
Oh, okay.
And Barry and Justin were like 40K deep or 50K deep, and I was like 15K deep. And I had like 8-9, I think it was, on ace 8 deuce. And Justin folded ace X of clubs. It was ace 8 deuce with 2 clubs. And everybody berated him so hard, and I just snap folded, and Barry rolled over 2 sevens. So that was a disaster. Yeah, it was great. Well, here's the thing that I missed out on that I didn't think about, and I immediately after, as soon as I folded, I was like, "What am I doing?" Barry had just said we need to play a game where we show one card,
Right. Okay.
like literally the hand before, and so he's like, "Okay, we're gonna start it right now." And I don't know what I was. Obviously, he's just fucking around when he wants to show one card.
He wants to show one card.
What am I doing?
That sounds like an epic game. Coming on to your podcast with your wife. You've been doing that for about 2.5 years or so now. Must be a lot of fun.
Yeah, so we started this podcast, my wife and I, in, when was it? Let's see. Yeah, I guess it was 2019. We had been wanting to start a podcast for a while, specifically about mental health. And we kept talking about doing it and putting it off. I had the YouTube channel, and we really wanted to do something with mental health. And then one of our friends committed suicide, sadly, in June of that year. And we were like, okay, we really need to just do this now. Let's just use this as a point for us we need to start this every week. And so she's my wife is a nutritionist. She is a very smart person when it comes to anything health related. And then, I put in a lot of work with all this mental health stuff. So I figured we can kind of help people as much as we can. We could share our stories. We've had issues with our children, in different areas that we could help, other people that might have gone through the same stuff. And so we figured we'd start it that way. And we started recording in August of that year. And very quickly, we realized maybe after the first half year or so of the podcast that it didn't have to necessarily be just about mental health, and that it could be more about life. It's a podcast about life. So we share our day-to-day experiences and what we go through, raising 3 kids, whether it's the raising of the kids, our relationship, sex life, all kinds of stuff. And it really just became a podcast about life. And then we changed the format a little bit this year. We're in season 3 right now. So the episodes always came out every Wednesday, and we haven't ever missed a Wednesday
really?
over that. Yeah, and then at the beginning of this year, we decided to switch our format a little bit to 2 episodes a week. So we do our normal episode on Tuesday. It's about an hour each week on Tuesday, just Jodie and I. And then on Thursday, we have a different guest each week. But it's very similar to this, very informal. It's kind of just like us chatting with people that we find interesting and catching up. And our format, our tagline is that you come for the laughs and you stay for the deep conversations. So the first half of the podcast, we play a game with my wife's name is Jodie. We play Jodie Thinks. So the people in the audience submit a word or phrase or a question for her, and then we just have a bunch of different random conversations that turn out, to talk about all kinds of different crazy shit. And then the second half of the podcast, we get a little more serious, and we might discuss, mental health issues or whatever else is going on, or how we're trying to improve ourselves, and or relationship stuff, anything like that. So it really kind of gives you that balance of relatability, where you don't, just because it's mental health stuff, it's just life stuff. It's just like we're talking about how you can get better at life, and you can laugh along the way and hopefully enjoy it.
That sounds really cool. And you said it started off as something that was aimed towards mental health, and it's transitioned to like a life podcast. It must have been a really cool experience over the past 2 or 3 years doing that.
It's the best. I mean, my wife and I, we have a what I think is a great relationship. We've been together for 15 years now, and we've been pretty much inseparable during those 15 years. We're together 24 hours a day for the most part, except for the last couple of days here where she's been in Florida. But yeah, in the chaos of life, when you have 3 kids and you got to get them to school and activities and all this other shit that you deal with on a daily basis, it's very easy to miss out on like those times with your significant other.
Yeah. And
this gives us an opportunity once a week to just chat. And we don't go in, we might say like, oh, let's talk about this week, but it's very brief. Every episode that we go into is very organic. It's just us catching up and talking to each other, just like you would hear us talking at night, before we go to bed or whatever. So It's a great thing for us, and we both love it quite a bit. We need to do a better job at promoting it because we're bad at that. We need to share some like highlight clips and stuff like that, but
Absolutely.
we end up just making the episodes and thinking they're great or whatever. And then we have a pretty dedicated like listenership of probably like between 200 and 300 people that listen every week and have for a while. And so we're hopefully we'll be expanding on that if people like and hear what they see.
Well, I've just plugged a link in the chat, so for those that are watching, and obviously we'll upload this to YouTube as well. Hopefully we get a few more viewers because it sounds really awesome. And I really like that organic side of things where it's not pre-planned and there's no script. It's sort of just like this. You're just hanging out and talking. It makes it feel a little more authentic.
Yeah, we so let's see, what's today? Last Thursday we had Andrew Nemi on, who's a friend of ours. And so, you know, like I said, the Thursday episodes are, even though there's a guest, it's really just Jodie and myself and the guest chatting, talking, catching up. Same format as Tuesday. We do the guest thinks instead. So, you know, kind of throw out a bunch of different random things to them. And when we did with Andrew last week, I said, we got on the Zoom call and I said, hey buddy, how's it going? You know, haven't talked to you in a bit. How you doing? He's like, good. I'm like, all right, we're going to start right now. I'm giving you zero preparation. I'm not going to tell you what we're talking about. We're just talking. Let's go. And we like hit play and just go. And so, like, you know, sometimes it catches the guest a little off guard if they haven't listened to the podcast before.
Yeah.
But that's what we're all about. Just like, sorry, we're throwing you to the wolves. That's why, you know, I told you, don't tell me any questions that you're going to ask me. Let's just go. Let's just chat.
Cold turkey. Let's jump right in. How was Andrew? Was he okay, or was he a little like, what the fuck? Hold on a second.
I mean, he knows us well, so it's a little bit. It's easier if you are having a chat with somebody that you know pretty well already. You know, if you're going into a more serious, like, you know, an interview for Poker News or something, and the person's just like catching you off guard with a bunch of questions, that's a little bit different. Whereas we were just we played Andrew Thinks, and I asked him about like a bunch of bullshit shit. You know, it's just like stuff that can make you laugh or make you think about something else. And then, so I think he handled it fine. I think he was good.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Speaking of Andrew, you know, obviously a very successful vlogger. I want to hear a little bit more in depth about your strategy of your play every hand. So for those that don't know, Trevor used to go to the local casino and play every hand, providing it wasn't 3-bet or all in before you. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, that was my parameters.
You turned a profit in your time doing that.
Yeah, I think I have it somewhere here. I think I was up $800 or something, $900 after the last I had checked.
How do you turn a profit playing every hand? It seems unbeatable, particularly with high rake, and you've got to be like limping in and stuff like that.
I'll tell you what, I wanted to, when was this? It had to be back in 2012, I think it was, or 2013, somewhere around there. I wanted to post a prop bet on 2+2 that I could play 100% VPIP under those same parameters and profit at Atlantic City Casino. Okay. But the way it just would be impossible to, like, people would have to obviously trust me, and there's just no way to do that. But I mean, obviously the rake is high. I'm like an over tipper too, so I'm just like throwing the dealer redbirds and stuff too. I mean, it's interesting. There's different types of low stakes games.
Okay.
So the most difficult low stakes games for this to do it in were the 100 big blind max, where people are buying in for like 20 big blinds or 25 big blinds. It just was those ones I would have to leave immediately.
Yeah.
The other ones where there was a little bit of a deeper buy-in, people just play so bad and so passively in a lot of these games. And then some of my sessions occurred post-COVID, and so the games were 7-handed or 6-handed at some points, and that was just like taking candy from a baby because they just had no idea what was happening in those. Sure. And the key thing is that people at these stakes just don't raise pre-flop enough. Mm-hmm. So I can get away with limping, and I could limp and fold if I wanted to. Not that I ever really had to. Yeah. But I could limp a bunch of bad hands and then just win tons of pots without showdown over and over and over again. And I have I have thousands and thousands of hours of experience playing these low stakes games live. And so I just went back to what I would do in 2005 was I would bet relentlessly, and then as soon as somebody raised me, I would snap muck. I wouldn't even unless I had the nuts, it's snap muck in the muck before. I wouldn't even think about it. So that's just kind of how I approach most of the things. And I made a bunch of videos where you could see, and I was saying actually to Andrew on our podcast last week that I was surprised that no one kind of reached out and asked to replicate this idea
Yeah, exactly.
into the vlogs, because I made some vlogs where I showed every single hand I played. So when on YouTube people want poker hands, that's all they want to see.
Yeah.
Give me more hands. So I made a couple vlogs where I showed like 97 hands. I put every single hand like into session, quick.
Yeah.
And so you could see exactly what my strategy was and what I was doing and why I was doing it. I was saying why I was doing it. And I assume that people have not replicated it because, one, they're afraid of getting exposed as not being very good at poker. Two, it's a lot of work to do. Three, there's going to be some variance involved, obviously, because you're playing every single hand. But yeah, I enjoyed, that was the one main thing I enjoyed with the vlogging thing was doing it, the play every hand challenge. And then I also did it online for a while too. When I was actually streaming on Twitch when I first started. Nobody was watching. It was like one guy watching every day. And I was playing, like, I started 5 cent, 10 cent, and then I was playing like 25 cent, 50 cent. And I was profiting there too, playing 100%. Yeah, so that was fun also.
Soft games, I imagine, if you're able to do that.
Yeah, I had some amazing moments actually that I have like snipped out. Like there was actually one. It should have broke the internet, honestly, but it just wasn't big enough at the time. But my son, who at the time was maybe 4, came in while I was in the middle of a hand and told me that he shit himself. And so I'll send you this clip because it's great, because I'm just like I'm in the middle of the hand. I had ace king. It was like an ace high flop. I'm like trying to value bet against this guy, and my son had just shit himself. And I'm like, dude, you gotta hold on. Like, and then he's like, it smells like poop. I'm like, of course it smells like poop because you shit yourself. It's great. It's great.
That is epic. Did you finish the hand and then help him out, or? Yeah,
hell yeah,
of course. Yeah, ace king, ace high flop. What are you gonna do?
Well, I even got dealt in the next hand too, so I had to play that one too because I couldn't fold it. I had a penalty where if I folded accidentally, then I would pay whoever shouted out in the chat. I'd pay them $10, which was a buy-in.
Right. Okay.
At the level. And I did all this for charity also. Like the play every hand challenge online and the one live. I just donated all the money, any of the money that I won.
That's really awesome. That's really commendable stuff. Quick question: did you tell the players at the table, by the way, guys, I'm playing every hand?
No, I didn't. And the funny thing about low stakes is that nobody even notices because a lot of them are playing every hand too.
Exactly.
Yeah. There was one time when someone at the table watched my vlog, and was like, after the session, he was like, hey, I know what you were doing. Like, I watch your videos. Like, I kind of stayed out of your way. I didn't want to, like, take advantage of this, basically. And I was like, all right, that's cool, man. I appreciate that.
Do you think that there's any chance that there was, like, a young kid at the table that was texting his buddies, like, oh, I've got this whale here. He's playing every hand. He's fucking terrible. Do you think that probably happens?
Maybe sometimes, but I always won every time. So, like, I'm sure they're probably like, this guy's getting so lucky.
Yeah.
The best was... Somehow, I don't know how I won in this. I won one of my biggest winning sessions on the vlog, doing the play every hand challenge, was a game at the Tropicana, which was like my old stomping grounds. And it was a 10-handed game.
Oh, okay.
Where most people had like 200, playing 1-2.
Okay.
And I just ran white hot in the right spots, like where I found people that just were not going to fold against me, and I had it like in a bunch of spots, and it's just like that's the only way I could have won in that game, like as much as I did. Normally, the other ones, it's like, okay, if I couldn't play. I recognized very quickly that I could not play in places other than Atlantic City also. So if I went down to Florida, or even if I went to Atlantic City, but I played at let's say like Borgata, I really couldn't do it there. Well, one, I couldn't film there anyway, but also if I played anywhere where somebody had a clue and it wasn't just not even just had a clue, but put a lot of money in the pot ever.
Sorry, bear with me. Just having some slight technical issues here. Not to worry. Let's continue on. Quick question for you. We were talking about your family life, etc. earlier on. There's a certain picture that's on your Instagram. I'm sure you know which one I'm talking about. With the home game, we'll say. I'm just going to pop it on my screen just now so everyone can see it. Can you talk us through this picture? I don't know if you've got the stream up, but it's the one where the young guy in the background is very upset, and there's a very worthy winner with King 6 offsuit. King 6 offsuit? What are you teaching your children, first of all?
Yeah, so this was I actually made a video out of this on my YouTube channel a few months ago, which is the first thing I've uploaded in quite a while.
Yeah.
We were down in Nashville, Tennessee on a family vacation. My kids saw some poker chips there. They wanted to play. Big part of my YouTube channel was my kids. They made a bunch of videos. They acted out a bunch of different scenes of funny skits that I wrote.
Okay.
And they've grown up around poker, so occasionally they'll want to play. That's my middle child there. The daughter is in the front. That's her name is Cameron. She made an appearance in a lot of the vlogs. A lot of people loved her.
Nice.
She is the most aggressive poker player I've ever seen in my entire life.
That's awesome.
She's relentless. She's also one of the most aggressive people I've met in my life also, so that kind of makes sense. And that's my son Andrew in the background. He was also a big part of the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And what happened was we were playing a little sit and go, and they knocked me out pretty quickly. They got heads up, and they played this hand where Andrew correctly bet call, or I think he like 3-bet called Jack high on the turn against her, and she got there on the river against him, and then finished him off with the King 6.
Oh.
So yeah, that's on the YouTube channel if you want to watch the highlights. I think it's a pretty quick video of the actual hand of that Jack 8 hand.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive. But yeah, there's also, like I said, there's a bunch of videos on the channel that they were my favorite thing to make on the YouTube channel. Was I would myself and my friend Jay would write up a bunch of different skits that were poker related, and my kids would dress up as poker players, and I think we had a lot of fun doing that, and I think they turned out pretty good. Those will be memories that we have forever, and I'm happy that they're on YouTube, that we can watch them back.
That's really awesome. I've put the link in the chat for Trevor's YouTube channel. You guys should check it out. It's absolutely fantastic. That clip, as you mentioned, is on there, and a very authentic reaction from Andrew. Obviously, didn't want to lose to his big sister. Very upset.
Yeah, yeah. The picture is a genuine picture. Like that, I did not stage that at all. It was her cheesing, very happy, while he was devastated in the background. Yeah, we have obviously a very competitive family here. They like I said, they've grown up around poker. They understand some aspects of it. Cam understands that you need to be aggressive to win, and she takes it to a different level.
Both on and off the felt. Coming away from the poker side of things, let's finish up with a little bit about the man himself. What are your sort of hobbies away from the game? Obviously, got to do a lot of parenting, but any sports, any keeping fit, anything like that?
I like to. Well, now I'm a coach also, which is kind of a parenting thing. So I coach baseball for the kids.
Nice.
That's been a pretty big passion of mine over the last year.
Yeah.
Our season will be starting up shortly.
Okay.
I like to play tennis. I'm actually going to play tennis tomorrow with some friends.
Mm-hmm.
Not very good, but I can get by.
Yeah.
Play basketball a bit as well. And when I'm in a good mode, I get to the gym and I try to stay healthy on those things, or go out for hikes with my wife a lot. Yeah, my life is pretty regimented in the fact that I love to travel. That's the biggest thing that I do. So my wife and I like to get to different places as much as possible, and we've never, even though we had kids relatively young, we had kids when we were 24, we started having kids, and we never let that affect the way that we lived our life, and never felt like we had to like settle down into just a family life. We have always traveled since then. So the way that I structure my schedule, the reason I go so hard when I'm in New Jersey is I try to set it up so I always have something to look forward to, a trip to look forward to.
Okay.
So I might go super hard for 6 weeks and then know that I have a 4-day stretch off where I'm going to go on vacation. I'm not going to think about poker. I'm not going to worry about any of that stuff at all. So we do quite a bit of traveling. Yeah, my life is basically broken up into poker, kid time, and then time with my wife, and I really treasure that time and try to make sure that the same type of awareness that I bring to poker sessions, I bring to the rest of my life. So when I'm parenting, I try to be just focusing on parenting and having really meaningful experiences with my kids. And then my wife is awesome, and I love spending time with her. And so when it's just time for us to go out and do things, I try to make sure that we really get that quality time together and we get to do fun things together and enjoy our life.
That sounds like you're focused on the task at hand. In terms of your traveling, anything out with the United States? You've been to Europe at all? Anything like that?
never been to Europe, and it's
On
it's
the list.
on the list. So we told our kids. I don't know why I told my kids this, but I said when they turn 13, they could pick anywhere in the world to go, and we go as a family trip.
Okay.
Well, my oldest turned 13 last year, but it was in COVID. So
Yeah.
and she's always wanted to go to Barcelona. So that
Ooh, very
that was
nice.
ruled. It was ruled out last year. So then I was like, well, okay, maybe we'll make it 14. But then I was thinking, man, it takes a long time to get there. So maybe we'll make it 18 instead. So yeah, haven't been to Europe yet, but I imagine that as my kids get older, those will be the type of trips that we take. A lot of Europe trips, a lot of other places around the world that we haven't seen yet. We've been to a lot of places in the United States. My kids have been to most of the states.
Yeah.
And we've been to a bunch of different islands in the Caribbean and Mexico a lot. Cancun, Mexico is one of my wife and I's favorite place to go.
I imagine one of the great things about being an American is that, obviously you can do so much traveling without leaving the country, whereas I'm from the UK, there's only so much that I can do until I have to get on a plane somewhere. But it's pretty cool. You say your kids have seen almost all the states. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, we started them out young traveling. The first flight that my oldest took was when she was 8 months old to go to Vegas for the World Series. The kids have been in Vegas every summer. They've been in Vegas every summer for their life. Yeah, we always go together. I don't want to be apart from them, and I want them to be able to experience things. So their Vegas experience is much different than what you would, like most people think. We just rent a house. They get to go in the pool every day.
Yeah.
We rarely go to the strip with them or anything like that. But one year we decided for the World Series that we would drive out there, from New Jersey, yeah. And my kids at the time were 5 and 3.
Okay.
Which is not a very smart idea.
Nope.
So yeah, we hit Chicago and Denver across the way, and I was the only one driving. But yeah, it was quite an experience. They got to see a lot of different things, and we have a house in Florida also, so. We got the house right before COVID, so we haven't spent too much time down there. That's why my wife is down there right now, actually. But we get around quite a bit.
How long did it take to drive from New Jersey to Vegas?
So the way we did it, we did 16 hours the first day from New Jersey to Chicago, and we stayed there for 2 days. Then we did another 16 hours to Denver from Chicago, stayed there for 2 days. And then another about, I think it was 14 or 15 hours to Vegas from there. So I think it was about 47 hours, somewhere around there.
Any regrets in hindsight?
No.
No
Regrets for me. Maybe from my wife's perspective, because she hates being in the car. I don't know how I got her. I don't know how I got her to agree to that at all. But I know that we could never do it again. That's for sure.
That's really awesome. It must have been a hell of a trip. Kids not a little cranky in the backseat after the first 15-hour day or whatever?
Well, it's funny. That was actually my first ever vlogging experience, and those videos still exist online somewhere. I vlogged for 5 days of the trip across the country, so my kids will occasionally want to bring that up and look it up, and there's definitely some videos of them screaming and yelling and crying and stuff.
That is fantastic. Last question before I let you go. Thank you very much for your time this evening. Are you planning the series this year?
Good question. I just saw the schedule come out.
Yeah.
I will never be somebody who plays anything more than a few events. Mm-hmm. And generally speaking, for the last few years I've only played the main event, and that's what I would do this year if I did play. I will definitely be there.
Okay.
The problem for me is that if I play, I want, I'm a very competitive person. So if I play, I want to win. But
yeah.
the honest truth, and this is kind of weird, but I don't necessarily know that I want to win the main event. So that kind of makes it so I don't know that I want to play.
Well, I tell you what, I'll win and you can come second. How does that sound? So you sort of get the best.
That's fine. Honestly, I don't. So that's the problem. I don't want notoriety. I don't want. Obviously, the money would be great and everything, but my life wouldn't really change much at all. It would be the same life, except for that routine. People would know. Except for people would know that I have $9 million now, and I don't really care to have that known. So I'd rather just and I mean listen, getting deep in the main event is a pretty great experience. I mean, you got pretty deep this past year, and you get to see what that's like. It's in 2000, what year was it? 2019.
Yeah.
I finished 255th in it, and it was amazing. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Busting was gut wrenching.
Yeah.
Which is very I didn't think it would be. Even when it was happening, even when I was playing it, I was like, okay, this is great. I'm just having a great. I was honestly just having a blast playing. I was having so much fun every day. I was so happy to be in the tournament still with a chance to win. And at that point, I was like, oh, whatever happens, happens. And then I lost with kings to king queen suited for like 60 big blinds with 255 people left. And then I was like just sitting there in the cash out line. I felt tears coming down my eyes. And I was like, fuck, this sucks. Like, holy shit, I did not expect to feel like this.
I min cashed, and I know exactly how you feel. The only saving grace for me was I busted in the same hand as Samantha Abernathy, so I got to talk to her in the queue for a little while before I departed. But it's brutal, isn't it? It takes a few days to get over it, doesn't it?
Yeah, again, that's where it comes in. You know, I then get to go home to my wife and kids, and I'm like, okay, well, you know, it puts in perspective, and you don't feel as crap anymore. But really, I just wanted to still be in the tournament. I wanted to still be playing.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to have those chips in front of me. I wanted to know what it was like to have 60 big blinds in the main event with 250 people left and just still in there competing.
Yeah. Just a little bit of FOMO.
So, yeah.
You're not in there anymore. It's particularly difficult when my buddies, a friend of mine, Lewis, went very deep this year. Kind of have that FOMO. You know, obviously you want your friends to do well, but you know, it kind of sucks that they're still in and I'm in the payout line. You know.
Yeah, that's probably going to be the biggest deciding factor for me in why I might not play. Is that when the events are going on, I have zero FOMO. I'm usually just like, yeah, I'm so much happier that I am doing something else, and that's how I've always kind of felt about a lot of poker tournaments. I don't do things if I'm not happy doing it. So if I'm not happy playing in a poker tournament, I'm certainly not going to play. Honestly, if I did go to Vegas to play any poker tournaments, it would most likely be those like win 1K one day events. Those one day, like, those are great for me. I'm basically a recreational tournament player. I want to be in and out. I want to get to the flips. I want to flips and gamble. Honestly, the best tournament to me would be if they did a mystery bounty tournament, except for there was no bounty and there was no poker. You just put in the money and then you got an envelope and they either it was zero or some amount of money.
Well, I'll take you to a craps table and we can have something very similar.
Okay.
Let's wrap it up there, Trevor. An absolutely massive thank you for coming on, and thank you to everyone that joined. So yeah, it was really awesome stuff.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
All right, guys, from Gazzy B and Trevor, thank you very much for joining. We'll see you next time. Take it easy.